If you are a freelancer, losing a client often carries more weight than people expect. It is rarely just about the work ending. It usually affects how secure you feel, maybe how you assess your own abilities, and sometimes how confident you are about what comes next. When a client reaches out to end a contract, your response is often immediate and emotional. Even before you finish reading their message, your mind starts to think about income, stability, and whether you could have prevented this outcome. This reaction is especially strong when freelancing is your main source of income and not something that you do casually. This video is for freelancers who already lost a client, are currently going through an ending, or find themselves quietly worried about when the next one might happen. Hi, my name is MJ, and I have been freelancing since 2020, and this is the Sustainable Freelancing YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, welcome. Over time, I have experienced clients leaving unexpectedly, contracts ending by mutual agreement, and there were also partnerships that no longer made sense to continue. What changed for me was not how often these endings happened, but how I learned to respond to them. Today, I want to share what losing clients taught me and how my relationship with these experiences evolved over time. And I really hope you can learn something from this too. So between 2021 and 2023, losing a client felt deeply personal to me. At that early stage of my business, freelancing was closely tied to my sense of security and self-worth. When a client left, I did not see it as a business transition, but I interpreted it as a reflection of my value. If a client decided not to renew, I immediately assumed I had done something wrong. I reviewed past conversations, I started questioning my decisions, and replayed moments where I wondered if I should have handled things differently. And in those moments when I was the one who initiated to end the agreement, I still carried guilt. I worried about disappointing the client or be perceived as someone difficult to work with, even if the relationship was clearly misaligned. Because freelancing was my main source of income, these endings felt so risky. I worried about finances and whether I could replace the work quickly enough. I remember calculating how long my savings would last. I also remembered continuing to show up professionally while feeling so anxious inside and questioning whether freelancing was sustainable for me at all. During those early years, client loss felt like an immense threat for me. Looking back, I can see that every client ending triggered a grief response. At the time, I did not recognize it as grief. I thought I was being practical or maybe self-reflective. In reality, I was emotionally processing the loss without the tools to navigate it well. I moved through denial when I hoped a client might change their mind or return later. I experienced frustration, although I rarely expressed it outwardly. That frustration turned inward instead. I spent time bargaining by wondering what could I have done differently or what adjustments might have prevented the ending. There were also moments of sadness and discouragement where my confidence dropped and my motivation slowed. I remember trying to compensate by working harder, over-delivering, or becoming more accommodating. Eventually, with time, I reached acceptance, but it usually came much later than it needed to. Throughout all of these stages of grief, self-blame played a constant role and was definitely so loud. I assumed every ending meant I lacked skill, maybe some awareness, or even effort. I rarely considered that timing or maybe the client's evolving needs might have played a role. That pattern made every client loss heavier and more emotionally draining than it needed to be. By 2024 and into 2025, my response to client loss began to change. This shift did not happen because I stopped caring, but because I stopped assuming that every ending was a failure on my part. Now, when a client agreement ends, my first response is often gratitude. I acknowledged what the partnership allowed me to learn and refine. Of course, I still feel sadness when a chapter closes. However, that sadness no longer turns into resentment or even self criticism. I learned to recognize loss without always internalizing it. Instead of asking what I did wrong, I asked, what season did that relationship belong to? Some clients align with a specific phase of growth. Others support refinement or clarity. Understanding this has helped me stay grounded during these transitions. And the emotional intensity is still there, but now it is calmer. The experiences feel more reflective than reactive. If you are navigating client loss right now, or you want to prepare for it, you can try these few things. First, it is important to separate your performance from your identity. A contract ending does not immediately define your competence or your potential. Second, recognize and understand that endings are a normal part of freelancing. Long-term stability in freelancing comes from expecting transitions rather than fearing them. Third, focus on facts instead of assumptions. Document what actually happened instead of filling gaps with self-criticism. Fourth, allow yourself to feel and process the loss without turning it into a personal judgment. Feeling disappointed means that you cared, not that you failed. Finally, build stability beyond any single client. Diversifying income, strengthening your systems, and maintaining buffers can reduce the emotional and financial impact of these transitions. Speaking of financial buffers, I talk more about that in this video, so you might want to check that out, and I'll also be adding the link to the description for your easy access. Now remember that preparation creates steadiness. Losing a client will likely never feel easy no matter how much we prepare for it. However, it does not always have to feel destabilizing. What I learned is that endings offer information rather than verdicts. They provide clarity without defining your value. You are also allowed to feel the loss while still trusting yourself. I mean, it's okay to move forward without carrying blame. If you are in this season right now, you are gaining experience that will support you in the long term. Thank you so much for being here and for taking the time to listen. And if you really watch or listen all the way to the end, I take a wild guess that you're someone who really cares about your freelance business and also in growing personally, not just professionally. Someone who values alignment, thoughtful growth, and clarity over shortcuts. Thank you again for staying with me for this conversation. Until then, keep showing up, keep growing, and keep building a freelance business that actually feels good to live in. Bye for now. Explore and learn more about the freelancing world by downloading my free guide called the Freelance Starter Kit. It's available in the description box below. Make sure that your email address is active and please check both your inbox and spam folders after you're done signing up. You'll also see a link where you can submit your questions about freelancing so I can talk more about those in my upcoming videos. Thank you and see ya!